With the F-150 and the Komatsu excavator I'm working on, and this is a little bit bigger than what I'm used to. This isn't mine, of course, I can't afford one of these, but I seem to have convinced somebody that I'm smart enough to work on one, so just straighten that thing out real quick, I guess. This thing has a lot of issues. It has a lot of hours, a lot of rust, and a lot of really unprofessional repairs done. But the main issue currently is this magic box right here, which takes a signal from the computer and a reading from the throttle cable motor and combines those to give an output to the throttle cable motor to control the throttle of the great big 5.9 Cummins in there. So I'm gonna pull that thing off of there and draw out a good thorough schematic of what it should do and what these wires should do and try to go from there. We had an idea last time, but these are confusing because there's two 12-volt wires, two 24-volt wires, a ground wire, and two rheostat wires, I think. I need to find out exactly because the owner ended up just plugging wires into different things, and he, I believe, completely fried the. It's not a rheostat. It's a potentiometer. So basically, it's a variable resistor. And when he started putting power to different wires, I believe he completely destroyed the potentiometer that was in it originally. So I've just powered up the machine, and the display on the ECU has a code saying 6A, and fortunately I have a service manual for this, so I'm going to be just going through it and seeing if I can find a 6A code and what that might mean. This thing is fairly complicated, but fortunately this is also pretty in-depth. This is the device I'm currently working on. It is the it just switches the DC motor which controls the throttle actuator. And so we have obviously two diodes, that way we can switch the polarity. Now, I'm trying to lay this all out in a way that makes sense. So, how I believe it works, and I do have one of these relays disassembled. We have coil ground, normally open, normally closed, and then 3 different ground pins. That's why there's so many pins on this, even though it's actually just a normal relay. And they are ground, they're connected to this copper chassis, so that's not a question. How I assume this works is we have a 12-volt common and then the 2 different coil negatives. I believe it is a common hot on this for some reason, just because of the way the diodes are, but I'm not sure. I think these diodes may just be used to, if you hook it up backwards or if one of the wires shorts, then it'll cause a direct link which will blow a fuse instead of overheating something else. But I'm not sure. I've never done this before, so I don't know what those do. I think that's what they're for though, because none of the power is actually needing to go through these, it looks like. As far as what we have, I think R2 pin 5 goes to pin 7 switches to pin 5 when it's activated. With R1, 6 goes to 5 when it's activated. So see, those would change between pin 5. So it looks like that may be the hot switching or the negative, one of the poles of the motor, the DC motor switching. This, I just noted this polarity changes the polarity, or this function changed the polarity at pin 5. And then with relay 1 and 2 off, 7 goes to 1 and 6 goes to 1. So they both have a common from 1 and 5. So I think each of those is a pole of the motor, and then 6 and 7 are the positive and negative or something. I'm not really sure. I'm having trouble understanding the logic of that. 5 and 1 are the motor poles. I wrote down 6 and 7 are 24-volt plus and minus, I'm assuming. So pins 1, 2, and 3 are 12 volts, and I know that because they are what controls the coil pins. That's these right here on the relay. And then all of the pins can be tested, and diodes are presumably used to blow the fuses. I just wrote this down for future reference whenever I get back to this. If you guys have advice that would be extremely helpful. I will quickly show you this schematic. You guys have been actually quite helpful on the ECU, so I think y'all are more qualified than me to understand this. Now, unfortunately, this does not accurately represent what we have here, and it is too old to find a proper schematic, but this is the closest thing we have, and it does serve the same function between pages. This is the right service manual for this machine, which is even more frustrating. And I mean, I've looked at the part numbers and everything. I was lucky to even find these relays. I can't find this board to replace it. And the issue is that we no longer have the male end of this plug coming from the machine. All we have is bare wires. So we got to figure out which wire from the machine goes to which wire here. And I'm just kind of trying to figure out the logic of it so that I know how to do that without blowing anything else up. Over here, hold on, I lost my, good grief, I about lost everything. Strong wind. Okay, over here, we have the wires with the correct kind of plugs put on them to plug into here. And so I'm just trying to figure this out. We have 7 wires. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wires here, it looks like. If I can count. Yeah, 6 wires here. So we should only have 6 pins being used on this board. We can double check that real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 6. The last one is behind there with this copper wire, I believe. So yeah, 6 wires here, 6 wires here. Yeah, this has really got me stumped. I tried hooking up the oscilloscope to this to see if the computer was outputting, you know, a switching, like, you know, pulse width modulation or anything on these, and it wasn't. But I believe that maybe because we don't even have the motor in place, so it has no potentiometer reading from that device, and it's just refusing to even send signal there since it thinks there's something wrong. This machine has so many problems. It's just a horrible experience to try to diagnose them all. I'm trying to talk the owner into just replacing as many parts as possible instead of me trying to fix every little thing. But, you know, like this, we just can't replace it. I had to replace the relays on it just in case they were bad, and I also went ahead and replaced the diodes and stuff. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to fumble my way through it and get this thing working because my current living situation really depends on it. Down here on the ECU, it is displaying the same 6A, not 6.8 message. 6A is not in the book at all anywhere, so that has to be some sort of mixed code signal, or perhaps a completely different code that this machine has special for it that isn't on the standard service manual. I really probably need to call Komatsu, but I've never done that. Never worked on a Komatsu, so I don't know if that's possible or anything. I gotta figure out something though, because this is not proving to be helpful. We do have some letters here, troubleshooting code. Going through this, I just don't see anything relevant. The rest for the wind, but once again, here is our motor control relay box. Here is the motor, plus and minus. It's just a regular DC motor. And then we have potentiometer ground, potentiometer power source, auto deceleration cancel switch, fuel control dial potentiometer, accelerator feedback potentiometer. So that accelerator feedback potentiometer is on the cable motor up here. The fuel control dial potentiometer is inside the cab. The auto decel switch is in the opposite nacelle in the cab. Potentiometer power source is, I'm guessing, shared between all of them, but I don't know. It's probably just a 12-volt power source. And then potentiometer ground is just ground, of course. But over here we have feedback potentiometer, motor, and then how that all goes through. Now these CN2S12 on all of the connections is not helpful. I do have a connections page in this book, but they don't seem to be relevant to anything in the book. Connectors 2-222, if we go to that, these codes don't match up with the codes on that item. So I don't know if we're missing pages perhaps, but they're all different than what is actually there. This is just extremely frustrating. I don't know what else to do. It's like we have just downright the wrong service manual, even though it says the correct machine on it.